Okay, we've all been there. You're in a circle, you're about to speak, and your brain just completely hits the eject button on whatever the person right before you said. So what's going on here? Well, that's what we're going to dig into. It's a real thing, and it's called the next in line effect.
I mean, picture this. You're at work. You're going around the table, doing introductions. You're busy in your own head, rehearsing your name, your title, that one interesting fact about yourself, and then it's your turn. You nail it. But then you realize you have absolutely no clue what the person right before you said. Their name, their fun fact, it's just poof, gone.
If this sounds painfully familiar, listen, don't worry. It doesn't mean you're a bad listener or you have a terrible memory. It's actually a super common, well-documented glitch in our brain's wiring. And yeah, it has a name.
All right, so let's put a name to this face. Let's talk about the clever science that first brought this whole thing to light.
It's called the next in line effect, and the definition really hits the nail on the head. It's this very specific inability to remember what happens right before it's your turn to do something. It's not about the person 5 seats away, it's about the one right next to you just before you're on. And this isn't some new agey pop psychology idea, nope. This was first penned down way back in 1973. A researcher named Malcolm Brenner designed this really simple but kind of brilliant experiment to figure out what was going on.
So here's what he did. He got a group of people together, and each person had to read just one word out loud from a card. They went around like this for 25 words. Then, as a surprise, he hit them with a memory test and said, okay, write down all the words you can remember. And the results were fascinating.
For most of the words, people's memories were pretty decent. But there was this one, very specific, black hole in their recall. They consistently could not remember the words that were read in the 9 seconds right before their own turn. 9 seconds, that's it. That's the critical window where our brain's record button just seems to stop working.
So, what on earth is happening inside our heads during that little 9-second window? Why does our brain decide to take a coffee break at that exact moment? Let's get into the mechanics of this mental glitch.
You might think the information is being erased, or maybe it's blocked somehow. But it turns out it's neither of those things. The problem isn't that you're forgetting the information, it's that you never actually stored it in the first place.
Scientists have a great term for this. It's an encoding deficit. Think of your brain like a computer for a second. To make a memory, you have to encode it, basically hit save. But in those 9 seconds before your turn, your brain is so focused on preparing you that it never actually hits save on what the other person is saying. The file, it was never even created.
And this comparison makes it so clear. We've all had a retrieval deficit. That's that frustrating tip of your tongue feeling. You know the file is on your computer somewhere, you just can't find it. But an encoding deficit is totally different. The document was never written. There is no file to find. The folder is empty.
Now, the big assumption everyone makes, and it's a logical one, is that this is all just stage fright. You get nervous, you're anxious about speaking, so your brain just goes blank. But is that what's really going on? The science tells a very different story.
I mean, we've all felt it, right? The racing heart, the sweaty palms. It just seems so obvious that it's anxiety wiping our memory clean. It makes perfect sense. But here's the twist, and this is the really cool part. When scientists actually measured this, they found something that totally goes against what you'd expect. Anxiety, it turns out, is not the villain here.
So check this out. Researchers found that the next in line effect was just as strong for people with really low anxiety as it was for people with super high anxiety. Both groups had the same exact memory problem. So it didn't matter if you were cool as a cucumber or a nervous wreck. This tells us it isn't about stage fright. It's a fundamental attention glitch that gets pretty much everybody.
Okay, so if this happens to everyone, regardless of anxiety, are we just stuck with it? Are we doomed to forget? Absolutely not. In fact, the fix is almost ridiculously simple, and it shows you how much control you actually have over this.
The short answer is no. You are not doomed to be that person who can't remember your colleague's name 2 seconds after they say it. You can totally override this brain glitch.
That's it. That's the whole secret. Sounds almost too easy to be true, doesn't it? But that's it. The entire effect happens because your attention shifts inward to yourself. All you have to do is consciously decide to shift your focus outward and actually listen. And what's really amazing is just how powerful this is. In studies where they simply told people beforehand, hey, try to pay attention to the person before you, the effect completely disappeared. Gone. In fact, people often overcompensated and they ended up having a better memory for that exact moment. By just deciding to listen, you can turn this weird brain glitch into a superpower.
So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. The next in line effect is not a personal failing. It's not a sign that you have a bad memory or too much anxiety. It is simply a predictable, universal glitch in how our brains manage attention. And now that you know about it, you can actually do something about it.
So think about it for a minute. Now that you have a name for this thing, where else does it pop up in your life? Maybe when you're waiting in line to ask a question after a talk. Or how about when you're rehearsing your coffee order while the person in front of you is talking to the barista? Now that you can spot this glitch, you can notice it. And once you notice it, you have the power to beat it.